Greetings, kindred. Hope y'all are having a wonderful day. We're going to continue today in our study of the book of Ezekiel. We're in chapter 16, and we're going to go through verses 15 through 26. So let's start. In this 16th chapter of Ezekiel, we've been reading about the location that Almighty Elohim has chosen as his favorite spot in all the universe. It is the location that will be his future dwelling place following the millennium and will remain his home for the rest of eternity. See Revelation chapter 21. That location is none other than the great city of Jerusalem, which was originally a heathen town called Jebus before he made it his own. Our Father speaks to us about his love for this location in such a way so as to show us his emotions, i.e., how he feels about this city and what has transpired there since he chose it. He likens his Jerusalem to an unclean baby girl who was left to die in her own birth blood, and nobody even cared enough for her to cut and tie her umbilical cord or give her a bath, until he came by and saw her and had compassion on her. Our loving Father then cleaned her and nourished her and raised her to become a beautiful young lady, mature enough to marry. So he took her to be his own wife by placing his skirt over her, and he bestowed upon her fine linens and precious jewelry, and great status as his wife. She was even given a crown of glory when David took her and made her the capital of Israel. She was truly beautiful, but now she is about to become a tramp and a whore and a prostitute of the worst kind. It is called religious idolatry. How can we as human beings, even Christians, come to an understanding of how our Father feels about our many religious traditions and practices which, although they appear to be worshiping him, really constitute complete and utter idolatry, which Yahweh likens to adultery and whoredom? We oftentimes don't see what is so bad about what we do, but then without the knowledge of his word, how would we know? If you don't know something, then you don't know that you don't know it. So Yahweh likens idolatry to adultery and whoredom. You see, following false religion, the traditions of men, is just like being a whore. That's pretty graphic and hardly seems like Bible language, right? Wrong. In fact, the great false religion to come upon the world, headed by Satan as the spurious Messiah, the instead of Yeshua, is called the great whore who sits upon the waters, which are the people. That's in Revelation 17, verse 15. Revelation 17, verse 1. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Therefore, all of the following graphic expressions of lewd, licentious activities in this chapter are to be interpreted as idolatry, and not to the sins of the flesh, which are merely used as allegory. It is by our understanding of how a husband must feel when his beautiful wife, that he is so graciously and amply provided for, even rescued from certain death, turns from his loving arms and becomes a slut and a tramp and gives away all the nice things her husband gave to her to all her lover boys. That is exactly how Yahweh looks upon the religious practices and the traditions of men, which we already read about in the 13th chapter, including those doctrines like the any-moment rapture theory, and traditions just like go to church and worship that cover up or hide through omitting the truth of His Word. If you think that isn't a true statement, then how can it possibly be that most of our people, including those who go to church and call themselves Christian, are biblically illiterate? They are not taught His Word, line by line and verse by verse, by the shepherds who lead them. It is an undeniable, indisputable fact. Here are the words of Yahweh concerning His beautiful wife, Jerusalem, as she turns from Him. Ezekiel 16, verse 15. But thou didst trust in thine own beauty, and playest the harlot because of thine renown, and pourest out thy fornications on everyone that passed by. His it was. Quote, but you thought you could get along without me. You trusted in your own beauty instead, and you gave yourself as a prostitute to every man who came along. That's the Living Bible version. Verse 16, and of thy garments thou didst take, and deckest thy high places with divers colors, and playest the harlot thereupon. The like things shall not come, neither shall it be so. She took her clothes off and decorated her bed with all the nice things he gave her, and then played the harlot. Unbelievable. He never saw anything like it. Verse 17. Thou hast also taken thy fair jewels of my gold and of my silver, which I had given thee, and madest to thyself images of men, and didst commit whoredom with them. She took all of her husband's valuables and made male images and worshipped them. Do you remember the Asherah in chapter 8? See Appendix 42 in the Companion Bible. She committed adultery big time. Remember what this is talking about. Adultery equals idolatry. Ezekiel 16, verse 18. And tookest thy broidered garments and coverest them, and thou hast set mine oil and mine incense before them. Verse 19. By meat also which I gave thee, fine flour and oil and honey, wherewith I fed thee, thou hast even set it before them for a sweet savor, and thus it was, saith Yahweh Elohim. She took all of his wonderful blessings which he gave to her, and she made sacrifice with them to her lovers, and gave all her attention to them, not her husband. Notice again who is speaking here, saith Yahweh Elohim. Verse 20, moreover, thou hast taken thy sons and thy daughters, whom thou hast borne unto me, and these hast thou sacrificed unto them to be devoured. Is this of thy whoredoms a small matter? She took Yahweh's children, born under the covenant of Israel, called them after his name, now called Christians, and through her idolatrous practices have caused them to be spiritually consumed by the devourer himself. It was not enough that she was a whore herself, but she sacrificed his children too. It is no small matter indeed. It makes our Father very angry, as we shall see in verse 26. Verse 21, thou hast slain my children and delivered them to cause them to pass through the fire for them. This refers to the practice of Moloch worship, where children were actually burned as sacrifices to this pagan deity of the children of Ammon. Consult any reputable Bible dictionary for additional information. This practice was strictly forbidden to Yahweh's people and specifically written in the law, Leviticus 18, verse 21. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Moloch, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy Elohim, I am Yahweh. Even so, would you believe that a man of Yahweh, whom he had appeared to twice, could turn away and permit such a thing? Here's a sad story. 1 Kings 11, verses 6 through 9. And Solomon did evil in the sight of Yahweh, and went not fully after Yahweh, as did David his father. David committed some very sinful acts, even sending Uriah, the husband of Bathsheba, to the front lines of battle, where he would face certain death. But even though he committed such sins, he never once departed from worshiping the true Yahweh. It was not so with his son Solomon. Verse 7. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Moloch, the abomination of the children of Ammon. It was Josiah, the 15th king of Judah, and whose name means Yahweh heals, who destroyed the abominable altars that Solomon built on one of the summits near Mount Olivet. Verse 8. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. Solomon was responsible for much whoredom, idolatry, in Israel, and it angered our father greatly. Verse 9. And Yahweh was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from Yahweh Elohim of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. Today, in most of Christianity, it is taught that an everlasting burning hellfire exists right now, just as the tradition of Dante's Inferno depicts, and the unsaved children go there to be tortured forever. Funny thing is that even Satan himself is not in a burning hell at this point, for he is soon to be cast out of heaven to this earth and will appear to the world as Yeshua Christ, though he will be the instead of Christ, or the instead of Yeshua, the spurious Messiah. No, the lake of fire appears at the end of the great white throne judgment and will last for but an instant, when all the wicked will perish, just as John 3:16 says. It will be the second death, the perishing of the soul, not the first or the second torture. Revelation 21, verse 8. But the fearful and unbelieving and abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Let's return to Ezekiel 16 and continue with Yahweh's narrative concerning his beloved city of Jerusalem. Ezekiel 16, verse 22. And in all thine abominations and thy whoredoms thou hast not remembered the days of thy youth, when thou wast naked and bare, and was polluted in thy blood. How quickly she forgot from whence she came. She owes her very life to his mercy and kindness, and yet she has become a whore. Verse 23. And it came to pass, after all thy wickedness, woe, woe unto thee, saith Yahweh Elohim. Verse 24, that thou hast also built unto thee an eminent place, and hast made thee an high place in every street. She built eminent places, i.e., brothels, whorehouses, on every street corner. Now remember, this is symbolic of idolatry, so these cat houses are really temples, meaning she built churches on every street. And high place is a place of worship. Ezekiel 16, verse 25. Thou hast built thy high place at every head of the way, and hast made thy beauty to be abhorred, and hast opened thy feet to every one that passed by, and multiplied thy whoredoms. She set up a whorehouse in front of the most frequented areas and spread her legs, i.e., threw her feet open, to everyone who came along in an endless stream of prostitution. She just couldn't find enough new gods and idolatrous places to satisfy her. Verse 26. Thou hast also committed fornication with the Egyptians, thy neighbors, great of flesh, and hast increased thy whoredoms to provoke me to anger. She even made alliances with Egypt and brought in Eastern religious practices. Jerusalem, Israel, was not supposed to make treaties with other nations and buy them off and rely on those alliances for her peace and security. She was to rely on her husband and trust in him. Instead, she tried to buy her friends and lovers. Well, as it is written in Ecclesiastes, there is no new thing under the sun. The practice of giving away big bucks to the peace process around the world is alive and well. Just ask the American taxpayer. Our father didn't like it then, and he doesn't like it now, and it provokes him to anger. Okay, that ends this part of the study, and we'll pick it up next time, beginning with verse 27. All right, we'll see you then. Yahweh bless.